This is Doug DeMuro, and today we're going to talk about what I was doing 10 years ago. There's this new trend, it's probably gone by the time this video posts, but there's this new trend, what I was doing in 2016. And I figured I might as well get into it because 2016 was quite possibly the most pivotal year in my career, at least from the perspective how you know me, which is YouTube. So let's talk about what happened to me back in 2016.
Before we get started, are you ready for your next cool car? Sell your enthusiast car on Cars and Bids. Trading in your car to dealers means you aren't getting market value for your car, leaving you with less cash for your next fun car. Just look at our recent sales of these cool cars compared to current trade-in value. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is the trade-in offer, and this is the Cars and Bids result. Get started now on carsandbids.com. Sell on Cars and Bids and join the best community to sell your enthusiast car.
Okay, so me, Doug, my kind of origin story started in 2012 when I quit my job to write about cars. And my earliest articles writing about cars were in 2013. And pretty quickly, I kind of got a little bit of a following, a little bit of popularity, writing on a couple of car websites, The Truth About Cars and Jalopnik, both of which were much bigger than they are today. Back in that era, video hadn't yet kind of become the preferred car content medium. A lot of stuff was on blogs, and Jalopnik was the absolute king. And I had become kind of like this popular writer on Jalopnik. Given that level of success at that time, I really thought I'd be a writer. Now, my first YouTube channel videos were at the end of 2013. My very first one, my goodbye to my Cadillac CTS V-Wagon, that was the end of 2013. But I really started to pick up momentum throughout 14, but especially into 15. And at the time, my YouTube videos were I only made them to be companion pieces to the writing that I was already doing on Jalopnik and The Truth About Cars. So I'd write an article, and at the bottom I would put up one of my YouTube videos. And I really so dearly thought that I was going to be a writer that I didn't really pay that much attention to the video metrics. I didn't really pay much attention to how the videos were doing because I was so focused on writing. And in fact, I will never forget my 100,000 subscriber play button. I didn't really think anything of it because I was so focused on being a writer that when 100,000 subscribers came, it was like, okay, people are watching the videos, but I'm a writer. And it was 2016 when that really started to change for me 10 years ago. My videos, the car review videos that I do and kind of in my current format really took off in the middle of 2017. But if you look at 2015 when I was mainly making videos with my cars doing silly stuff, and 2017 when I started the car reviews in my current format, that year of 2016 was the changing into what I became, and it was a massive, massive deal. So I started off the year doing videos with my own cars. That was how I did all my videos before because I was writing articles about my own cars, so I would make videos with my own cars to be a companion piece to the article. So I started off that year, I had an Aston Martin V8 Vantage that I drove on a frozen lake in Vermont with my friend Bill Eady, and that was cool, and I made that content and it was good. And I was doing a bunch of other self-car content with my own stuff. And it was just in that era that I finally started thinking, hey, why don't I do some videos with some other cars? Probably the first really big one that I remember was in April 2016, I did a video with a 1997 North American spec Land Rover Defender, which ironically, I later owned one. But I did a video of that with my buddy David. And that video absolutely blew up, and it didn't include any of my cars, and it didn't include any of my, doing weird things with my Range Rover, or weird things with my Aston Martin, or getting stuck in the snow with my Viper, or all the stuff, the kind of car gimmicks that I'd been doing, silly stuff with my own cars. It was someone else's. It was like a new thing to the channel, and it blew up. So I started doing more of those. I had actually done one the previous month where I got a press car from Toyota, a Land Cruiser. and I took it off-roading. And that video also did well. It didn't do as well as the Defender, but it also was pretty successful. It's amazing that was 10 years ago. That Land Cruiser seemed like the coolest thing in the world at the time. That was 10 years ago, and that Land Cruiser press car later was sold off to Africa, which is where they all end up going. But once those videos hit, that Land Cruiser, that Defender, I started realizing, hey, wait a minute, this could be a thing. Instead of doing dumb stuff with my own cars, every video, a new car, a different car. And so I started pursuing more of those, which of course is what my channel evolved to become best known for, and which is where it had its greatest success. I started borrowing my friends' cars. In June of 2016, I borrowed a Jaguar F-Type from a buddy of mine, also named David, and that car, it was a manual F-Type. I didn't even do anything crazy with it. Like with the Defender, I like did a bunch of silly stuff, and with the Land Cruiser, I took it off-roading. With the F-Type, I just sort of did a kind of a clean review, and it got popular. And it hit me then like, okay, I need to start doing more reviews of more other people's cars. And by that summer of 2016, I basically had transitioned to doing 2 videos a week, one stupid video with my car and one new car, some other different car. And I remember one of the big videos I did back then, I borrowed a TVR Tuscan from a guy in Ontario. And that video really blew up. And each video where I borrowed a car, it would seem like someone else would reach out to me and offer me a different car. And so like each one was almost a stair step to the next one. And it was really the TVR Tuscan in August of 16. I then got reached out to by a guy named Zach who had a Ford GT. Again, ironically, I ended up with one, but that was also in August of 16. He said, hey, I saw you just did this Tuscan video. Why don't you come do a video with my Ford GT? And as I recall, we filmed the Ford GT video in the parking lot of like a fast food restaurant in Toronto. Again, I had actually driven up to Toronto to film the TVR Tuscan, driven all the way back to Philadelphia. It was like 8 hours. And then I got this email from Zach with the Ford GT, and he said, hey, I'm in Toronto also. I got a Ford GT. I went all the way back up to Toronto, another 8 hours, 2 weeks later, all the way back down to film the Ford GT. That video also blew up. And then that really began to cement, okay, I need to start doing videos with different cars. Like this is where this is gonna go. And I within not that many months, I kind of started abandoning doing videos with my own cars purely in favor of doing videos with other cars, new ones and old ones that are cool. And when I think about the 2 biggest breakout videos in this period were the Carrera GT. I still don't really know how, but a dealership in Ohio lent me their Carrera GT to drive for a video in 2016. Unbelievable experience. I was terrified, but we got a really good video filmed. Good for that time. I look back on it now, I'm like, what was I thinking? But at the time, there wasn't a lot of content about this stuff. But the one that I remember really being a breakout, which I was surprised by, was a guy lent me, he had just bought, brand new, just came out, a Mercedes AMG GT. And he was in the Philadelphia suburbs, and we had met through a mutual friend. And I didn't think that car was that special. Like, it was cool. It was a fun car. It was nice, whatever. But I didn't really think that car was that crazy special. And I remember that video really blew up. And the thing that taught me was, okay, the Carrera GTs and the TVR Tuscans and the Ford GT, they do well. But what the audience really seems to love is new cars. Like there was no real content on the Mercedes AMG GT just yet. And at that moment, it was like, not only should you be doing other people cars, you know, different variety of cars in every video, but you should be focusing on brand new models. That was a huge revelation with that AMG GT video back in 2016. And, you know, I started off 2016 as a writer, making silly videos about my own cars to supplement my writing. And after these realizations throughout 2016, I left 2016 as a video guy first and foremost, making car reviews with other people's cars. And that was the year where I transitioned from, hey, maybe I can do this, to this is the next thing. And I'm still doing that. 10 years later, like that individual year where I learned what people really wanted to see at that time has sort of evolved into what I'm still doing. And I mean, you can look at the kind of the future of what happened on my channel. It was was the summer of 17 that things really started to blow up and my views really started to get off the charts. And it's kind of hard to explain it now in the YouTube world because YouTube has really taken kind of a, not a back seat, but really taken a turn. Back in 2016, 17, 18, YouTube was the only way to consume content. And of course, now we have Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and obviously TikTok. And so YouTube is not like the be all and end all anymore. A lot of users have frayed to other platforms. But back in 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, I was like untouchable as by far #1 biggest car reviewer. Every video I would put up would get to 1 million+ views, no question. The big stuff could hit 5, 7, 8, even 10 million views. It was really, really wild stuff. Like it seemed to me at that time that the whole world every week was kind of waiting to see what Doug DeMuro was going to review this week. You know, every week we could count on 7, 8, 10 million long form views, which even the biggest YouTube channels now would give anything for. There are so many fractured short form viewers and all that stuff. Long form views are just really hard to come by compared to back in the day. But back in that era, it was because of some of the realizations I made in 2016, back in that era, I was really like the king of automotive YouTube. And I'll tell you, you know, it's funny, like, I wasn't like Roger Federer. Like, I love tennis. It wasn't like #1 in the world in a professional sport. And I wasn't like Bill Belichick, you know, who's a pro football coach here in the States, who was like #1 for decades and in his football team, the New England Patriots. But like, I was, and still am, like #1 car reviewer. And there's an enormous, operating at that level is like pretty intense. Like, you gotta know what the audience wants, and if you mess up even a little bit, you risk kind of fraying this built empire. And there was just like so much pressure, like get it right, get the right car in the right time, you know, put up the right videos at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year when the ad rates are higher to really capitalize on it. That was an intense period. That was probably early 2017 until kind of 22. But after 16 and after I really started to focus more on the automotive reviews, I, you know, kind of took off from there. In 2018, I moved here to California, and by the end of 19, I had stopped writing about cars completely, and I have not written about cars since then, which I think is funny because I've always felt and still feel that I'm actually a better automotive writer than I am a YouTube creator, video creator. I'm really a pretty gifted writer, and I can really take more time with it and all that, and I think I'm kind of sometimes I'm a little bit of a doofus on screen, but the audience is in video, and so that's where I went, and that's where it's progressed, obviously. And I think if you really look back, like 2012 is the year I quit my job to start this, but it was 2016 where I really started to refine this format and really understand what the audience wanted to see. That kind of became the groundwork and the platform for what my channel has become in the years since. And I never really let it go. And obviously, you know, eventually we came out with Cars and Bids, and that's a whole other topic, but even that can kind of trace its lineage back to becoming a big and successful creator on YouTube back in starting back in 2016. So there you go. Everybody's thinking about 10 years ago. That's what I was doing 10 years ago. Kind of a less well-produced, if you can believe it, less strategic version of what I do today. Just sort of beginning to test the waters. And I'll tell you, a lot of people ask me about my success and how it all happened. And I look back on 16, and I think one big way that I had success was I pivoted. I quickly started to understand what the audience wanted, and it wasn't necessarily what I thought they would want. I thought they wanted content about my own cars. I thought they would want my writing. And what they actually wanted was content reviews of the new cars or of the different special cars. And realizing that with kind of the laser instant focus that I had, and pivoting very quickly and starting to line up car reviews very quickly, that was it. That was the reason that I have gotten so successful, a big part of it. And so I think a lot of people ask me, oh, what's your trick, or what was the secret to success? And I think realizing what the audience wants and trying to capitalize and potentially shift completely very quickly, that may well be a make or break moment in your content career if you're trying to create stuff. So there you go, 10 years ago in the life of Doug DeMuro.